When you hear
What
that
time is
music, you know it's Jess time. Ladies and
Yes, sir.
gentlemen, welcome to
Yes,
today's
time.
episode of Jess, the Border
Yeah.
Collie. Today we'll be hearing from Jess all about his travels. Jess will be telling us exactly what he's been doing the last couple of weeks, and maybe he'll let Steve have a word here or there. And today I'd like to present to you Jess's spokesperson, Mr. Steve Edwards. He speaks for the dogs. How's it going, Steve?
Yes, sir. Yes. What do you think? Is that okay? All right. Jess says that's okay.
That's okay. All
I
right.
get,
Jess is going to turn the microphone over to Steve Edwards.
yeah. Not too many people know how to speak border collie.
Not too many people do. You're one of the few. And what does Jess have to say for what you guys have been up to? Jess, what have you guys been up to?
Jess, did you hear that? Jess, where are you? Oh, I think his mom took him to one side.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah.
It's been a couple weeks, Steve. Yeah. What have you been up to?
Oh, golly. Well, I sent you a couple pictures there. Did you see that triangle picture? Oh, looky there.
How about that
Right
right there?
there. That's my truck and home away from home. We have never been to the North Rim. We've lived here since 56. Never been to the North Rim of the Grand Canyon. Oh, there's one of my buddies. He come in about every day into my blind. And people have fed him there, I'm sure, because he would stand up on his hind feet and say, "Give me a piece of bread." And I would not do it. Oh, there's Jess checking out the trail. There they are.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was my wife's birthday was August 4th, and mine was August 3rd. And August 3rd, I left for the North Rim of the Grand Canyon to hunt buffalo. That's what I did. Ask me if I seen any.
Did you see any buffalo near the north rim of the Grand Canyon?
Only at the North Rim of the Grand. I did not see other side of the fence. They knew where the fence was, and they did not show up.
We'll have to figure out how to outsmart them next time.
Yeah. You see the little triangle picture there? Oh, there we are, kicking back. Go on up, slide on up, slide on up. There we are. Now this right here, that's a sunset. That's lost the name of it. It'll come to me in a minute. Lee's Ferry. And we were sitting on the Colorado River at the Lee's Ferry a couple nights ago, and that was pretty enjoyable. Flip it
That's
up
awesome.
Flip up a couple pictures here. Looking for a little triangle. Keep on going the other way. Let's see here. No, there should be a triangle.
You want to double check and make sure that one came through? I grabbed everything that came through.
Oh, you did. All right.
Yeah. No triangle just yet.
Just yet.
While
Right.
Steve's looking for that, I want to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. We've missed you the last couple weeks, and hopefully you've missed us too. Hopefully we haven't worn out our welcome. Every week on Tuesday, we get together to talk about mules and donkeys, and that's what we're doing today. And sure is good to have you. Really, there's only 3 things you need to know for this program. Number 1, we want to know that you're here. So in the comments section, would you share your name, where you're watching from today, and what the weather is like there? So my name is Dave, and this is Steve Edwards. And Steve is watching from Queen Valley, Arizona, and I am, I guess Steve is broadcasting from Queen Valley, Arizona, live from Queen Valley, Arizona. And I am broadcasting from Chandler, Arizona. I know y'all thought that I was, near the ocean. It's very convincing, but no, I'm actually in Chandler, Arizona. And next week I'll be in Hawaii, Steve.
Oh, man.
I'm
Hey,
excited about that.
you're going to spend most of your time in the sand with your head in the sand.
Probably, but
Yeah.
I'll get a really, really nice tan, hopefully, come back looking all tan and be like a bronze god.
There it is. Yeah. Well, from what I saw when I was over in Hawaii, I spent most of my time in the head of the sand because them people over there don't wear much more than what you can put in an aspirin bottle.
Yeah. That is not a lie. That is very
Yeah.
much the case.
Yeah.
Um, So yeah, Sandra and I are gonna go out there, and I've been assured that the grandparents watching our three little boys are very much looking forward to it and are very excited. Okay, I got them right here, Steve.
Okay, right here is where I spent 12 to 14 hours a day for about 12 days. And fortunately for me, I had on this here little old thing they call a telephone, iPhone thing. I had Chuck Swindoll and I had John MacArthur in
Oh
here.
yeah, there you go.
Bible studies, yeah, praise and worship music. And I also read a really neat book about our attorney, our judge, Sandra Day O'Connor.
Oh yeah.
And really neat book. I mean, you gotta get it and read it. They developed a ranch called the Lazy D in New Mexico. Phenomenal ranch, miles and miles and miles of ranch, and she talks about it. Great book. But I heard it through Audible, and
Yeah.
that's where I got a lot of my stuff. You know.
Oh, very good. Well, yeah.
Yeah.
So Steve's back. We got a few pictures here, and very very fun, very good. Glad you're able to get away and do that. And oh, you know what? Here we go. I did not have. There we go. There's what Steve was talking about. That's where he was at. That's where he was watching uh, for
It's a
what
little.
10 to 12 hours a day, 12
Yeah,
days.
yeah. It's a little pop up, and that little pop up, you sit in there all day long, waiting for a buffalo walk by to taste salt, and they never did. They say, "Nope, we smell hunters."
We smell a mule man.
Yeah,
So, like I said,
man.
we want to know that you're watching. Your name, where you're watching from, what the weather's like today. That's the first thing, and I'm sure you're seeing folks in the comment section right now already putting theirs. Second thing that we ask is that you go ahead and ask any and every mule or donkey question that you've got. We've got a bunch of questions that have been stocked up from the last couple weeks. So we'll be getting through as many of those today as possible. And we'd love to hear from you too. So in the comments section, you can put your questions, and we would love to make sure that the next time you go out to spend time training or riding or packing or ponying or whatever the case might be, that it's a rewarding experience for you, that it's a lot of fun, and save you as much frustration as possible. And that's what we're here to do. The third thing that we ask is that you share the broadcast. There's share buttons, whether you're watching on YouTube or whether you're watching on Facebook. Go ahead and share with friends or family. The last thing you want is to be watching this program and for one of your mule or equine friends to walk in your home, catch you sitting in front of the computer watching Dave Shrine and Steve Edwards talk about mules, and them say to you, "I thought you loved me. I thought you cared about me. You're not
Oh
telling me about this program?" We don't want that for you. No, sir. We want
no.
folks to say, "Oh my gosh, you changed my life. You told me about Steve Edwards, Dave Shrine, and the weekly broadcast." That's what we want for you. That's what we're here for. So, first question today comes from Cheryl. Says, "Hello, I am the girl with twin mules in North Carolina. My boys are 14 weeks old. When is a good time to wean them? I know 4 to 6 months. But since they're twins, I wasn't sure if I should wait longer than 4 months. They are both eating and drinking and doing great." What would you say there to our friend Cheryl?
Well, I say an average of 6 months, twins or not. But here's the main thing, Cheryl, we got to consider doing, and that is this: they need brain surgery right away, and I mean right away. The sooner that they get castrated, the better boy mule you are going to have. Because when they start mountain mom and start fighting with one another and this sort of thing, you're going to have your hands full. There's nothing meaner and nastier in the world than a mule that is intact. So my thing is talk to your veterinarian, of course, but when they're dropped, those testicles are dropped. I do brain surgery right away. And Dr. Robert Miller, a very good friend of mine who has written a lot of books and traveled all over the world and this sort of thing, training. and he was a mule man as well. And he lives in California. We won't hold that against him. And I think he's 94 or 95 years old now, sharp as can be. But he will tell you, sooner you castrate him, the better. Sooner you get away from mama, the better. All right. Now they've already had their colostrum. They're good. They're already eating. Find a safe place to put them. And that's really important. Safe. No T-posts, no barbed wire around, but put them in a good, safe metal pen. They're going to go crazy. They're going to chase one another. Now, put them in separate pens as well. All right. Now, the day you castrate them and they're under the impression of those drugs, that's the time to put the come-along rope on them. That's the time to pick up all 4 feet. That's the time to lead them all around. That's the time to do quite a few things until the drugs wear off. Then go from there. But put them in separate pens. Walk them and train on them every day if you can. If you can put in 15, 20 minutes, I normally not tell you do every day, but when they're castrated, they need to move around. And if they move around, then they'll heal quicker, far quicker. So do that right away. That's one of my favorite things when it comes down to a good John Mule. He's a good John Mule when he gets castrated as soon as they both are dropped.
Next question. This one comes in from Judy. She says, I'm sad that I can't get Lakin Lite in Florida. Tractor Supply used to carry, but no longer. One store told me they can't even get a supply if they contacted the mill. Can you suggest a similar feed that the East Coast sells? In the meantime, I guess I'll be label comparing and try to get similar to the Kentucky research recommendations, or the KY research recs. What would you say, Steve, to someone who can't get Lakin Lite?
Well, basically just take that article that I wrote and go down with the ingredients and talk to your feed store. Now, there are some mills that can actually make it up for you. Yeah, and I've been told by several people, they've gone down to their local mill and said, I want these ingredients put together. And then they put it together, and then you have your feed. Now, here's what one of the problems is Chuck Lakin passed away, and then his son-in-law ended up with it, and his son-in-law sold it to Sakate. And now they still have the brand and stuff. I guess I don't know. I have not visited with them, and I haven't had any mules for a while, so I've not been feeding any Lakin Lite, of course. But here's what you got to remember: this is a place to start. This isn't eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich every day that's going to be the same. Every mule is going to be used different. My mules, the mules that I was feeding on a daily basis, which when I said my mules, they were clients' mules. They were my personal mules as well. And I fed them that same feed, every one of them. I'd have anywhere from 15 to 20 mules here at a time. Now, you feed them according, this is really important, according to their use. If they're being trained on or being used heavy, then and trained on heavy and this sort of thing, and not just standing in a corral, you're going to feed them one way. That's the nice thing about Lakin Lite. That's the nice thing about that feed. I can change and put in 5 pounds one day and then go to training on the mules and then have to feed 8 pounds. I could do that. You cannot do that with hay. And when you have the feed cooked, as we did it, cooked, then all your vitamins and minerals that are placed in there are intact. Plus, you got clean feed. It's not like having hay that has salmonella in it because of the rat parts and the snake parts and the bird poop and things like that. So that's the nice thing about feeding that. So you can go to your milling companies, and they're around, and you can say, hey, can you make up this feed for me, and what would it cost a ton? And that would be your other suggestion. Otherwise, one of the downsides of going and finding into a feed store is it's going to be more like a little tiny rabbit pellet. And it's usually a pellet that's about the same size as my finger, all right? Big around. And so that made it pretty nice. And you can wet them when you first are feeding them, and that way they'll go down a little bit easier for some of these animals. Now, I also put river rock inside my container so that they don't just gobble it down. And you always want to do this. This is really important. When you are changing feed, i.e., if you are going to go camping for a week or so, you got to remember when you are changing feed, you got a good chance of getting colic. So you feed a little bit, say you're packing back in the mountains and you're going to hobble them out, they're going to be eating some grass. Okay, let them feed an hour or two of grass, and that's going to depend on you as to how many hours and this sort of thing. And then you're going to feed them. You're going to take them off the grass, and you're going to feed them your feed. Don't just change your feed right away. It's not good for their intestines. It's a good way to colic them up, okay? And that's when you need to have Banamine around, so if they do get colicky. But anyway, there you are. Hope that helps you out. If you got any questions, give me a holler. I'll visit with you.
Yeah, when Steve says that, he means it. Hey, Steve, you came recommended in hopes you can advise me on a few things. I got a beautiful, sweet, incredibly well-mannered 9-year-old Molly last week and was told she was a been there, done there pack mule. Her videos back that up. She looks great. They said she was just started under riding and only had 2 rides on her before she came to me. I have your videos saved on Saddle Fit for the saddle fitting mule. It's totally new to me. I've had pasture pet mules before, but nothing under saddle, so it's a new adventure. I will need bit advice too. To make sure I'm doing everything right for her, do you do saddle fittings or take in training clients, even 2 weeks, just to show me how to get started? I've trained horses for a living, but this will be my second mule I've ever trained. Burros are my specialty, but nothing under saddle. So, Lisa, this is a great question. I can tell you right off the bat, Steve is constantly traveling. Steve is constantly on the go. And so several years back, the private training and things of this sort, that was something that had to make the tough decision. But the only reason that tough decision was made possible is because what we found is through this program, the videos that we've been putting online and the articles that we've written, we've actually been able to do way more training this way than Steve was ever able to do person to person. So in the future, if there's a clinic or an expo, we would love to have you there. But Steve, that said, what encouragement can you give to Lisa, and where can you tell her to start on working with this mule that is a been there, done that mule and looking to put it under saddle?
Okay, so here's the deal with been there, done that mule. Everybody knows he knows what he's doing. That is a knot, okay? Don't think that he's gone up the trail and has seen everything and done everything. They don't have the brain power to remember that, y'all. I know most of you can't even remember what you had for breakfast 2 days ago. So how do you expect your mule to be there, done that? This is what I'm saying, okay? People say he's been up the trail in Colorado and he's packed all them. How come they only tell you just the good things and they don't tell you the bad things? Number one, you got, get this in your mind. You did awesome in that you bought disposition. Now, if you did that by luck, good for you. But if you did it because you knew what you were doing, even better for you. Folks don't buy one because they said, "Oh, he knows he can do it all." There's no such thing. The size of a walnut, get that in your mind. The size of a walnut is the only amount of brain power that can hold the training, been there, done that information. All the rest of it is a mule that says, I eat and I poop and that's my job, and to be with friends, okay? And that's it. So, folks, here's a been there, done that mule. You ready? Here it is. In a 10-foot circle. That's all. Not go up the side of a mountain, not go across the river. In a 10-foot circle. You side pass, turn on the forehand, turn on the hindquarters, stop, back up in a 10-foot circle. If you can do that, your mule has a basic foundation. Just because a 10-year-old kid is riding that mule, just because they've been to Colorado and they've done all this stuff, does not mean anything, folks. That doesn't mean anything. If they have a good foundation, using your voice, hands, legs, and your seat, that means I can pretty much do anything and go anywhere I want to do for the most part. Now, take it to Grand Canyon. Put people on them mules every single day. That mule knows one thing: follow the next mule. Matter of fact, we even gave you a big old quirk that said, slap them on the butt. If they don't stay tight and compact, slap them on the butt. You didn't have a whole lot to do with them. You pulled and went to the left, pulled and went to the right, pull back and stop. And they already pretty much knew what was going to be happening anyway. But let's go back to this, okay? I have all these videos out. What do we got, like 380 videos, something like that, Dave?
It's more than that at this point, but keep on.
Okay. Anyway, we got a bunch of them on YouTube, and it's free. We use the F-bomb around here all the time. We like to use the F-bomb. Free. That's what it is. Free. All right. And I've got all kinds of videos. Matter of fact, in these weeks and months coming up, you are going to hear me interviewing a lot of you who are training these mules that have been to a trainer and have gotten scammed. Yes, you heard the word, scammed. Because the folks here, I can't put all the blame on them. I got to put some blame on you, and no blame on the mule, because it's not his fault. And that is this, okay? Everybody thinks as long as I can ride him, he's okay. No. Try and ride your truck or your car down the road with no brakes. Try and steer your car with the steering power steering pump out. Okay, you know what I'm saying? Okay, so let's go back to this. There's enough videos and stuff you can do this on your own. Saddle fit, Dave has made it easy on you. Go over to Master This Saddle Fit in the front page. Dave will even put a link to it. And you can go to Saddle Fit and you can learn how to do a britching and why you don't use croupers and stuff like this. And by the way, Dave, of course, we get a lot of copycats, right? You and I. And there's a copycat out there right now. They're doing a little deal like you and I do. What do they call this?
Mule saddle training course?
No, the name of what we're doing here.
Ask Steve live streaming?
Yeah, live streaming and this sort of thing. And this person was talking to this person. He says, yeah, I'm a mule rider. Sometimes I ride with a britch and sometimes with a crouper. Well, when do you ride with a crouper? Oh, when it's not too bad a riding. Well, what's not too bad of a riding? He never did come up with an answer, you know. He never did say that you got a good chance of breaking the tail on your mule, yada, yada, yada. But anyway, going back to this, we got lots of information. Dave and I are going to be interviewing a lot of people that you're going to hear that they're not trainers, they're not professionals, and they're doing it, okay? And so you can take and do this stuff yourself and enjoy it. But riding's not the important part, folks. Building a foundation to riding, that's what's important.
They'll never be able to copy your good looks and my stunning hair, no matter what they do. No matter what they do, they'll never be able to copy it. Hey, let's say hello to some of our friends. Ashley's watching from hot Minnesota. I've only heard of Minnesota. I've never heard of hot Minnesota. I'll have to visit that. Rory is watching from Southwest Ohio, 88 and scorching. Polly is watching from Barnesville, Minnesota, 92 and 73 humidity. Oh, miserable. Oh, that sounds terrible. Polly asked the question, did they ever find that lame mule in the Bob Marshall?
You know, I'm almost afraid to go over there and ask. Last I heard, no. They've never found that mule yet. Now, who knows? what happened, or maybe somebody even picked it up. Because if there was no brand, then that mule could belong to about anybody, anytime. But just goes to show you, folks, that that is important. If you're going to be taking these mules back in the mountains, you shoe them. But no, I haven't heard. But I'll tell you what, I will check on that.
Ashley says, I love your new short videos. And so Steve and I have taken all of the videos that we've recorded over the last 4 or 5 years, and we have turned them into shorts. And so YouTube does not let us choose the thumbnails, Steve. So these are not me selecting the thumbnails. But mule chewing through your lead rope, what do you do? The problem with letting your mule eat first crop cuttings. Is it ever okay for an equine to eat foxtail? Should you lock up your mule during a hailstorm? Does a mule grow more slowly than a horse? Using blistering to fix a mule's patella? How do you bond with your mule without spoiling them? All of these videos are now on our YouTube channel, so you can find them. Hey, that was a popular one right there. Does feeding your mule oats cause them to choke? 25,000 views. So some folks are wanting to make sure they don't choke their mules. Keeping his head in place. So lots of really great videos going up on the YouTube channel. They're on Instagram as well. And so that's what Ashley's talking about. And we've got something that we're getting very close to announce the details on. We've been building it's like Mule Man University, where you can go in and thousands of videos on all of the different topics that you want to know, cataloged, categorized, organized, so that you can type in feed and everything Steve has to say about feed pops up. You can type britchin and 20, 30 videos about the britchin pop up. You can type in this or that and it's all going to be there. So Ashley, we appreciate you saying something. We've been working hard on that, trying to reach new folks, and glad that you noticed. Marcia says, looking great. Dave O'Brien, East Texas, 102 and humid. Let's see. David Pengelly, 92, hot, Manchester, Georgia. Good to have you back. Sherman Johnson, Johnson Taxidermy, Norman, Oklahoma, 100 degrees. Maybe next year we'll get that buffalo to taxidermy there, Mr. Johnson. I know Steve wants to be able to send you something. Mari is watching from Northwest Missouri, where it's 95 degrees, sunny, and feels like 110. I know what that's like. Very humid. Ashley, Chuck Swindell, good listening. Agreed. Linda without Theo from humid rural central Ohio. How you been doing, Linda? We're so glad to see you today. It's good to have you here. And we've missed seeing you, and hopefully you'll hang out with us a little bit longer today. Bruce is watching from New Braunfels, Texas, 89 degrees, light rain, and we need it. Marcia says, hot and dry in Virginia, hay shortage this winter. Just bought hay stretcher pellets and complete feed. Linda says, really like your tapestry quilt on your wall. Steve, is there a story about that tapestry?
No, let me go here. See it go here. Here we go. Over this way. No, over this way. My wife, when we have season changes and stuff, she throws up these different little tapestries. She's got a little bit of every kind of collection going up. But my wife loves mooses. Oh, moose. She's got in this kitchen, there's moose all over the place, and there's a few mules too. But she likes moose, so, and she likes to eat them too. Yeah.
All right, moving right along here. We've got, let's see. Marcia says, I just bought Neutrina Triumph Complete pellets for my mule. I only need it for maintenance. Judy is watching from Northern California. We've had a bit of rain from a touch of Hurricane Hillary. Partly cloudy, and it feels like Hawaii. Yolanda, mules are, and then she gives every wonderful emoji she could find on her keyboard. Good to have you here, Yolanda, and you know what that means. We've gone international. I'm assuming she's coming from international and isn't here stateside, but even still, international.
The
Netherlands. Kevin is watching from Kansas. Let's see here. Jim, watching from central Alabama, typical southern weather, 94. Susan says this excessive heat warning here in Wisconsin. Man, I'm feeling bad. It's been nice here in Arizona the last couple days. Everyone else is suffering. Let's see here. Netherlands is acceptable weather, Yolanda says. Myra says we're still standing after rain and earthquakes here in Southern California. Sunny and 84 degrees with humidity. Linda says, I've missed y'all too. You have to be a special person to love a moose. Don't let on that you eat them. They don't like that. Not a fan.
Not
Yolanda says the Buckaroo ride's awesome. My Molly is really light-footed, and the new pad altogether is really awesome. But our Farrier is on holiday, and her hooves got too long. Worked off 3 shoes, so she has a short vacation there. So very cool. Glad to hear that report. Jason has the question. We just bought our first gaited mule. We have ridden her, and she is great, but her gaits are pretty rough. Any suggestions? So, Steve, what is a gaited mule as opposed to a regular mule, and any suggestions on gaits that are rough?
okay. So a gaited mule simply means they move along a little faster because they're mostly of their mother, which could be Pasolfino, a Fino, it could be a Tennessee Walker, it could be Missouri Foxtrotter. But anyway, it's a unique way of the animation of how they are moving along. All mules have a single foot. That means as they shuffle, and they get this from their daddy, the donkey, all right? As they shuffle, as they're going down the trail, it is right side, right front, right rear, left side, left front, left rear, and they shuffle like this. Nice ride, okay? Now, why is it rough? Could be several reasons. Number one, if you are using a gaited bit, which is made for horses, you got to remember you got a different palate on the mule compared to what's on the horse. So their head is different, their palate is different. And when you're using horse bits, you're not going to get that wonderful walk or that wonderful way of going with a mule. You're going to get maybe 50, 60%, but here's 2 things you need to do. Okay, first of all, you can send me a picture of the bit. Be happy to look at it for you and tell you. Other thing is, get the teeth floated. Teeth are very important. It could very well be that you got points on those teeth, and this mule is having a hard time carrying the bit. Now, let's go back to this. Do you know what breed the single foot is, the gait is? Because the gait means how fast they walk. Now, is the head bobbing as they're going? Okay. Are they using animation in just their front end only, which would mean a Tennessee Walker? Or if they balance themselves up a little more framed up and they're driving off their hindquarters and their front end, then that would be a foxtrotter. Now, I can tell you this, that your gaited people are not going to like me because I could care less, really. But anyway, because I know that you can get better out of a mule. And that is really this, that when it comes down to gaiting and to walking correctly, they will take and do a lot of special shoeing to the feet to get them to elevate their legs and this sort of thing for animation. Now, so it could be that too. Now, here's the other thing. Are you riding in a breeching, or are you riding in a crooper, or are you riding in anything? Nothing. Now, send me a picture if you want. Be happy to look at it, of your bit. Send me a picture of the mule unsaddled. Send me a picture of the mule saddled. All right. Now, I can tell you this, folks. In a matter of minutes, matter of fact, almost steps, you can go less than 20 feet. And that saddle is already forward and sitting on top of the scapula. If you're using a crooper, it'll be on top of the scapula really quick, because a crooper will allow a saddle to move 2 to 2.5 inches forward and back, left and right. A breeching, you can adjust to hold the saddle back according to the terrain. And the downside of the crooper is this. You've got an easy way to break the back on that mule. Hear that? break the back on the mule, and you have to put it down. Because here's what happens. When that tail starts rubbing on that crupper and it gets to be tender where the mule is throwing his tail up a lot, what do people do? Loosen up the crupper, right? What happens when you loosen up the crupper? Now the crupper that goes around the tail like this, all right? Now they move it from down here up to here. Now they got leverage and they break the tail and they break the back of the mule. Yes, it happens a lot. So don't let anybody tell you that you ride with a crupper. That's ridiculous. The crupper was designed to 6 to 8 pounds. A crupper was designed for harness, not for holding back 200 plus pounds of saddle and person. Okay, so send me some pictures. Be happy to help you. There are a lot of reasons. Number one, how they're shod. Number two, you want to make sure you do shoe them, especially gaited animals. Where your saddle placement is, type of breeching. Send me a picture of your bit.
Awesome. Next question. This one comes from Zet. It says, my mule is a sweetheart out of a kill pen. And after a recent Farrier visit, I was wondering, how do I find a good Farrier? I'm in over my head, willing to keep him anyway if he is if he is never rideable, because so long as I can care for his feet and teeth, I can entertain him, keep him mentally sound and mentally stimulated. There's a trainer on my reservation that has trained mules once under the saddle, moves cattle and animal for a while. That's my current route, as most farriers and vets I have reached out to refuse to see him since he is gentle, but not gentled truly. We are working slowly with the come along hitch. I'm aware that I could have bought a mule that is ready to go, but since I am not in the business of calling an unrideable animal unless I choose to go to a young one. No issues with him really, just doesn't know what I want from him. Sum it up, how do I choose a trainer to ship him to? I'll be tucking away money, so I'm not looking for the cheapest option. I just don't want to ship him off to a horse trainer and pay for him to have a bad time with someone who doesn't know mules. Yeah, no kidding. Thanks for your time. My John is on a dry lot. He's doing well on orchard hay and Lakin Lite pellets with a balancer and hoof supplement. So this is from Zet. What would you say here, Steve?
Save your money, Zach. Just watch all my free videos. Do it yourself. Like I said, folks, over the next couple months, several months actually, you're going to be hearing interviews from people who have gotten the short end of the stick from a so-called trainer. And I realize, folks, that there's some good trainers out there. I'd like to meet them. I've yet to really have met them, really, and they really do understand. There's a couple of them out there, but there's not very many. And so here's the thing. Just in general, yes, most people usually take them to a trainer, and what do they think they want? They want to see them ridden. Not important. Riding is the icing on the cake. They need good ground foundation. You can do it. They need surcingle work. You can do it. They need their first bidding and stuff. You can do it. They need their first saddle put on and stuff. You can do that. Okay. Now we've got a video series. There's 5 videos, and there's 5 different people who have never ever trained on a young mule or trained on a mule at all ever. And watch it in a video. You'll see each one of these 5 people step aboard for the first time that the mule has ever been ridden and watch them ride. Okay, folks, this is not brain scientists. Okay, you don't have to be really smart to go doing this. You just have to be patient. Why take? It's bad enough when I can go into that school system, but anyway, why go ahead and do it yourself. Take your time, enjoy the mule, enjoy the trip. But don't go spend a bunch of money. Oh, they move cows around. So what?
Next question comes in from Robert. Says, what vitamins and minerals do you feed your mules?
Okay, so if you go to my website and read the article, Mules Can't Stand Prosperity, you will see the basic vitamin, mineral, nutritional supplements that I put in my pellets. Okay, that Chuck Lakin and I put together. Now, let's go back to this. In order to really know what vitamins and minerals your mule needs, you need to do a blood sample and or a hair follicle test. By doing those, okay, by doing those hair follicle tests and by testing like that, you will know what your vitamins and minerals are needed. Now, just like me, I just had a full physical, and my doctor said, "Okay, Steve, you're doing all the right vitamins and minerals, and all your blood work looks good. Yada yada, everything looks good. So here's the deal: I'm staying with it. As long as I'm staying healthy, I'm going to change it. So you do the same thing. Take your meal, get a high hair follicle test by your vet or a blood test, and they can tell you what vitamins and minerals you need. Now, don't go buying a mineral block salt and say, okay, I fixed my problem. No, you didn't, because all you're doing is wasting your money. That iodized, that mineral block does not give that mules all the vitamins and minerals that they need. So get your hair follicle test or blood test, one of the two, and you can go from there.
Awesome. Let's see here. Hannah is watching from Dunedin, Florida, 94 degrees and gorgeous. Linda says, yes, my heart needs y'all's company. I've been going through cancer treatment, and my recovery plan involves spending a lot of time with Theo. We think he died from sarcoma that went to his brain. I miss him something awful. And cancer recovery feels extra lonely with no one in the pasture but my daughter's silly-minded horses. I've got a lot of Steve Edwards tax that is lonely for a mule as well. Boy, I just hear that heaviness. Steve, is it okay if I just pray real quick for Linda and just what she's going through? Jesus, you are so good. Even when life is not good, we know that you are good. And what we know trumps what we feel. And we know that you have good plans in store for Linda because you that's who you are. And so we pray that you would send her the right companion. We pray that you would give her exactly what she needs, even the things she doesn't know that she needs, that you'd bring them. And we just pray that you would reassure her that we are so grateful and glad that she is here with us and that we know her story. And God, reassure her that you know her story and that you care. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. So we really, really appreciate you being here, Linda, and I'm really honored that you would share that with us. Thank you for trusting us with this. Really appreciate that. Let's see here. Jack from Johannesburg is checking in late, 70 degrees and cloudy. Next question here. This one comes from Lisa. It says, how do I slow down my mule's trot?
Okay, trot. So you have to understand feeling the beats of the foot. Okay. Now, you're going to be, anytime you are training, you always want to use the mule rider's martingale. The mule rider's martingale sets the head, keeps the head from elevating, which then keeps them from getting tight in the throat latch, which then keeps them from taking all five major neck muscles and tighten them up as well. Balances and frames it up. Now, your trot can be just a nice slow trot or an extended trot as well. And that's going to depend on how you are in the saddle. You get yourself up off of the seat, more like on the balls of your feet with your heels still down a little bit. And then you pick up on your bridle. You're going to be using the mule rider's martingale, which is a snaffle, double twisted wire snaffle. And with two hands, you're going to edge her along with your legs, bump, bump, bump. And then with your hands, you're going to go right, left, right, left. And when she becomes the trot that you want, then you quieten your hands and quieten your legs. That way she understands. Because you see, you're putting pressure on her that she's not sure of what to do. Now, she may even take off at a canter. She may even extend the trot some a little bit. But that is going to depend on your hands. That's really important. And when you go right, left, you're saying, right brain, listen to me. Left brain, listen to me. And then that, as you're bumping and increasing the intensity, then what that's going to do is get the mule to understand that when he's going too fast or when he's going too slow, your hands are going to say, go faster or go slower, along with your legs. So your legs control from the shoulder to the hip to the back feet. Your hands control from the shoulder to the nose through your hands. So those two items together, using those two communication devices help the mule to understand. And remember, anytime, folks, that you're training on a mule, you are making them uncomfortable. That's the way life is. But they have to be made uncomfortable in order to know what you are asking of them. Okay, now, here's the last part. Do you have your mule shod? That's one thing, okay? Now, here's the next part. Why shoeing? Because if they're not shod correctly, then they would be going, ooh, ow, ooh, ow, ooh, ow, on the gravel that you're trying to trot on. Now, the last thing, your placement of your saddle. If your saddle is in the right place and your breeching is adjusted correctly and your back cinch is adjusted correctly, then you can take away the mechanical and say, okay, it's not the problem. Okay. If you want to send me pictures, I'll be happy to look at it for you.
Next question. You may have already spoken with Paul, but I wanted to put this out there. Paul says, asking for your recommendation on 2 riding saddles and a pack saddle for cross-country rides. My mules are 3 years old with a good start on ground training with Susan's help and more training to come when the weather cools off here in Florida. My mules are 4 years old and 15 plus hands while still growing. They are gentle and eager to learn as you about their smarts more than me. I'm asking for your help so I can get them ready for the Florida Cracker Cattle Drive in the first part of the year coming. Thank you, Paul.
Okay, so he's wanting to know about the saddle.
Yeah, riding saddles and pack saddles for cross-country rides. What do you recommend?
So, with my saddles, Paul, and thanks a lot for contacting me. And Susan, who he's talking about, is one of my few trainers that is still training full time right now. A couple of them had some health problems and got into some other things and this sort of thing. But Susan Sonderberg is an excellent trainer. She was with me here for a couple of my programs here at the ranch, and when I was teaching at Pierce College in LA, she was one of my prime students there. Excellent trainer. So you're in good hands. All of my saddles have the exact same tree. That tree has been consistent all these years. Now, going back to this, it's really important that you not think that, okay, by the looks of a particular saddle, it's going to be rugged and this sort of thing. I can tell you that Trail Lite is an excellent saddle, especially as we get older. And I know you and I are getting longer in the tooth, So that Trail Lite saddle is only 18 pounds, tough. Man, it gets along good. And especially in your country where you have got a lot of moisture, the great thing about that saddle doesn't mildew and this sort of thing. And you don't have a lot of extra maintenance when it comes down to the leather, which can mildew as well. So going back to this, you could conceivably get the Buckaroo Lite. The thing about saddles is that gals' pelvises and guys' pelvises are different, so they set a saddle different. So guys really do really good with an unpadded seat, and gals really do good with a padded seat. Now they got to have the padded seat because their little pin bones and their high knees tend to cause a little bit of problems. Now, folks, let's go back to this on your saddles. If you're having problems with your saddle being uncomfortable, adjust the stirrups. That'll make a big difference. I've seen, I got clients that will wear several different pads on their saddles. Sometimes it's a urethane. Sometimes it's a rubber pad. Sometimes it's wool. I've seen all kinds of saddle covers on these things. But a lot of it has to do, folks, with your not riding off your legs. So conceivably adjust your stirrups, you'll get it. So Paul, hey, thanks for contacting me, and good job getting with Susan Sonderberg. She's an excellent trainer. She'll do you good, but we've got all kinds of saddles here. You just give me a call and we can visit.
Yolanda says, I hope to make a breakthrough with your saddles here, but most people are still so stubborn and hard headed. Rory says, question, my wife thinks I should hose my mules down because it's hot and humid. What do you think? They have 100 gallons clean water and shade.
Well, at the most, what I do, because here's the thing. When you go putting a lot of water on these animals, the flies come and they become horrible, okay? If I've got my mules a little bit warm, then I'll take and leave the saddle on him until he starts drying up some, and then I'll pull the saddle off, and I'll take I got 1 pound coffee can that I use. I put water in it and take that coffee can and I'll run that water right across his back. And that's all I'll do. I won't wash them down. And folks, I know that a lot of you like to wash them down and stuff. If it makes you feel good, do it. Just do it. Don't worry about it. Just do it. And that's the whole thing with this stuff. It makes you feel good and you feel better about cooling off your animal, do it. Does it make diddly to that mule? No. I have seen them with 120 below zero stand out in the middle of a pasture and enjoy the whole time. Same thing with here. 120 outside, 135, 140 degrees on the ground, and they'd rather stand out in the sun. Why is that? They don't have to deal with the flies, you know. And besides that, these mules were way tougher than you and I. But if it makes you feel good to run a hose on them, do it. Otherwise, no. You're not going to help your mule.
Next question here. This one comes from Angela. Can you please tell me how the downhill hip saddle pad works? And is it the same buildup? Is it the same as a build-up saddle pad? Would I be able to use this pad on a horse that has a saddle fitting issue going downhill?
Okay, the only saddle fitting issues that horses have and mules have is we're not using the rear cinches. Now, I had a lady contact me, and it could even be you, best I know. I don't know. But these so-called saddle fitters that say that this saddle is best and this saddle is best and this sort of thing they're not knowledgeable to tell you. Here's the deal. As you can see in the picture, do you see how the hip is higher than the wither? So what this pad does in the front is thicker to make up for the conformation problem that the mule has. It's a conformation problem, folks. That's what it is. That's a really good one right there. You see how it really runs downhill. So it's not the saddle's fault. It is conformation of your mule or your donkey. That's what it is. So the pad makes a difference in that. And now let's go by this. If you didn't have the pad, your saddle would sit downhill. Now, if we made a tree just for that downhill hip mule, the front of the saddle would have to be 1.5 to 2 inches thick. And could you imagine the looks of that bar on there? It would be impossible to make a saddle really nice looking to make up for that. So what I did was I created this pad that's wider in the front, narrower in the back, and it helps bring the front of this thing up. Now, here's what I've done in the past, and I've screwed up. I've screwed up a lot of mules, folks. I've messed them up. I admit it, okay? Now, I thought, well, I could just fix that. I'll just take and add a little bit more pad at this one spot. No, what I ended up doing is putting pressure back on the kidneys. Or I'll add a little bit more to it. No, I kept putting pressure on the kidneys. Now, you can tell the way they walk and this sort of thing if there's a problem. And you can also tell by the urine. But anyway, so I finally developed this pad, and I developed it um, because of one of my very good apprentices. Um, and she had a wonderful mule that the judges loved. They judge this mule all the time to be one of the better ones, mainly because most of your judges are quarter horse judges. This mule was very much a quarter type mule with a high hip. They've got the high hip so that they can work cattle and get down low in the front end. That's the purpose of that high hip for today's cutting animals. And the other reason they developed that high hip, that big broad hip, is because that's your drive. That makes you be able to have a good fast jump out and this sort of thing. So the purpose of my pad is to take and bring the front of the saddle up. Now, you still have to have a bar that fits correctly on the mule's back so that the mule is comfortable. All I did was bring the front of that saddle up, but still, once you cinch it down, it has to fit that bone structure, okay? And here's the deal with the other thing you got to think about is when I have a 19.5-inch bar, that's the full length of my bar. I only want about 15 inches all the time touching the animal's back. Why is that? Because the front of that bar, of that tree, if it is putting pressure on there, then you are restricting the movement of that mule's back. Now, just look at this, folks. Where do you see all the white marks on mules and horses? Right up behind the shoulder. Why is that? The biggest reason is we don't use a rear cinch. And on a mule, it has to be the tightest. On a horse, snug it up. But I've had people tell me time and time again, I want to buy your tree because my saddle fitter, which is sickening. Anyway, saddle fitter says only only a mule tree will work on your horse. No, two different bone structures altogether. My saddle will not work on a horse. It will cripple them and it will make them buck because they're tired of putting pressure. So let's go back to this, okay? If you take and look at your saddle without a rear cinch, the back of the saddle is doing this. That's what it's doing. But if you snug up that back cinch where it's snug and keep the saddle balanced, then it flows with the animal. It doesn't rock up and down. And no, that rear cinch, people say, well, if I tighten up that rear cinch, you'll buck. No, you don't have that cinch back in a buck and strap area, okay? So going back to this, when it comes down to it, okay, the purpose of the pad is to make up for your conformation problem on your mule. When you buy a mule, folks, disposition first, conformation second.
Awesome. Very good. I love those pictures. It really, really helps for folks.
Oh, it helps a lot.
Be able to see exactly what we're talking about here. I know that was real helpful for me too in the beginning. This one, we had a video on YouTube talking about not doing first crop cuttings, getting later ones. Had Tom say, I've had cattle and I'm going to disagree. The first crop is the best crop, but you got to let it age of maturity before you feed it. I've lost a lot of young animals on second and third crop because it's too rich for too many chemicals in there. Do you have any thoughts? Is there, I mean, maybe it's just different experiences. Just thought it might be a good opportunity to talk about it.
Perfect. Here I am. Folks, I have helped people cut hay and this sort of thing, but I when it comes down to baling hay and this sort of thing, I don't know anything about it. Here's what I know. And you can also read it on the internet because it says it a lot. Number one, you don't feed alfalfa because it is tough on the urinary tract of your equine, not just the mule, okay? The first cutting is usually the richest. Now, again, I'm only going by the professionals that I've talked to. Now, this is like Chuck Lakin from Lakin Cattle Company. This was 30 years ago when Chuck used to teach me about hay and stuff. He always said the first cuttings are the richest. They're the more carbohydrates, and they are the richest. I have seen it personally myself, where I have actually had animals colic on a first cutting. I have never, ever, on any of my animals, including cattle and horses and mules, never had any problems on second and third cuttings. Usually the chemicals, from what I understand, there again, I'm not a hay grower, but from what I understand, and talking to the people who are, Lakin is one of them, is that usually you do most of your chemical and this sort of thing on your first cutting. But they claim, quote, they claim that the chemicals don't hurt the feed. I don't know. But I can tell you this, that when I have done testing on my hay over the years, and I've taken it in and they've tested it, they've told me about how heavy the carbohydrates were, the sugar count, the proteins, the salmonella count, all this stuff, vitamins and minerals. They've been able to tell me that. So, sounds like you've had a little different experience than I have. Thanks for sharing that with us. I appreciate it. We always like to look at a lot of different views, but this is what I've got from working with, Lakin Cattle Company over the years with their feed. So they're my main ones that I always went to, trying to figure out how to feed my mules and my donkeys correctly.
Yep. Thank you so much. Appreciate you watching. Rory says, thanks. I'm talking standing in pasture. Does that affect any of your answer for Rory about the hosing down?
Oh, no, I don't. No, if they're just standing in pasture enjoying life, no, that's not going to help them. Here's the problem: it's going to draw flies, and flies are already a problem as it is. But no, when I come back from a ride, I don't mind taking a can of water and putting it down through their spine. But otherwise, they don't need it. But if it makes you feel good and the mules like it, do it.
There we go. Let's see here. Yolanda says, the Buckaroo I got from you is also a Lite saddle, and I have no regrets I got that one. And yep, I padded the Buckaroo with a wool padding, so it rides great. Yolanda loves her wool padding, doesn't she?
Yeah, you need to see. I think we got a picture of it, or maybe she can send a picture, because this thing, it looks more like a sheep going down the road. She loves her wool padding, but and a lot of people do. I understand. Okay. But personally, me, I adjust the stirrups for the type of riding that I'm going to do. But she's got a really unique pad that she uses.
Yeah, I'm trying to get it here. I think this is about as good as I can get on the short here. I can't really zoom in, but you can kind of see it there.
Oh, that's the light one she uses. She's got a dark one she uses.
She's got the wool all over that there. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
good for you, Yolanda. If you're happy with it, that's all it counts.
Yep. There we go. T&C Tree says, my mules prefer a good roll in the dust over being hosed down.
Yes. Yep. That's a mule bath.
Man, that sounds like my 6-year-old.
Yeah. It's amazing. You'll pull the saddles off of these mules, and you'll see horses go right for the feed in water. Not a mule. They do a mule bath to start with. They'll go over to the dustiest place they can find and roll in that thing. That's what they like to do. So when are you going to Hawaii?
We're leaving on Sunday morning. The grandparents are gonna take the kids, and kids will be with them. My oldest is getting to be junior high age, and he's got his first junior high retreat this weekend. So can't believe I got a kid that's that old. He's real excited. We're excited for him, and we'll miss when he gets home from that, but we'll be excited to hear back from him when we return. So
you want to feel old? My son's getting ready to retire from the fire department.
That's old.
Yeah.
It's coming for all of us, Steve. We can't avoid it.
Here's what we're going to do. You're going to be seeing some interviews. We're going to be interviewing people, just everyday people. Matter of fact, Dave, we haven't heard from Dave from Australia today, have we?
Not yet, no.
Yeah. We're going to be getting a hold of him. We're going to talk to him You all saw a very good friend of mine in Montana, Ron, rancher up there, interview we did with him. We got several people that we're going to be interviewing that's had experiences with trainers, and I want you to hear what they had to say. I want to help you out. And then, folks, just like the guy about the hay, if you disagree with me, that's okay. That's all right. I'm always wanting to learn, always. So. Anyway, Dave, I guess that's it, huh?
Yeah, that's it. If y'all missed it a couple weeks ago, Steve had Ron come on and join us, and sure was fun. Ron spent some time. Let me see if I got a picture of. All three of us got together and we talked just about what he's got going on with his equine on his ranch in Montana. Talked about a feed program. Talked about nutrition. Talked about healthcare for the animal, talked about training and riding. It was funny. He goes, if I can finding how much time, he goes, finding time is a kind of a treat on a working ranch. So it was real fun. Y'all can go there to YouTube, and that's free. No, wrong one. There we go. It's free up on YouTube. There's hundreds and hundreds of videos there. Be sure to subscribe. And as you start scrolling through, YouTube's done this new thing called Shorts, where it's just little 60-second videos or less. We've got a lot of really great things. So you just get a little dose, a little bit of education every single day. Maybe you see something that's relevant to what you're doing that day. Maybe it's just good information to have. But if you just build up over time, eventually you'll develop an archive and a frame of reference to where you can dig back into the archives when you need it and get results. Steve, thanks for hanging out today. Anything you want to say before we're all done?
No, we're good, folks. We got several things coming up here in this United States. One is to vote. We like to see the votes, but I think prayer behind that vote and in front of that vote is what's going to be important, because we're not going to see another stealing of votes, okay, folks. We need to pray that God's hand will be in here. We see in the Bible time and time again where Timothy teaches us that we must realize that God brings in the kings and queens and this sort of thing to guide us. Now, if that's true, that means you and I have been on the dirty list for because of some of the president that we got now. That's my opinion, what I'm reading in there, but I'm going to tell you, folks, blessed is the nation whose God is the Lord.
Absolutely. All right. Thanks, everyone, for hanging out. Blessings to you, and looking forward to seeing you next